Welcome to First and Pod. I am Patrick Peterson. Make sure you go listen and subscribe to First and Pod on Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get right into the game against a classic. Let's get right into the game. A classic showdown against the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Brock Purdy came out on fire, played lights out. A lot of questions coming into this game. How Brock Purdy is going to react or respond after the terrifying loss against the Arizona Cardinals last week. But he came out, played big boy football, 18 of 28, 255 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and just really carried his team throughout the first half and making some really, really big throws. In the second half, Geno Smith tried to keep his team into the ball game by scratching and clawing as much as they could. They kind of got, behind big in the first half and kind of made it hard for those guys to come back in the second half. But the Seattle Seahawks gave it all that they had to try to make it a game, but the 49ers was just a little bit too much. But I would like to give a special shout out to the rookie Green for the San Francisco 49er defensive back who made a huge interception against DK Metcalf. It was basically, we like to call those an over route. They came in a double snug set, and DK Metcalf was trying to run a deep over route. Green did a great job of playing with great leverage, pretty much funneling DK Metcalf to the middle of the field where majority of his help was. Did a great job of undercutting that pass and intercepting it and helping his team pretty much close out that game. It was a great game. San Francisco almost gave that game away again. We know they've been having troubles on closing football games out, but they came out with a purpose, especially in the second half with a nice scoring drive coming out of the locker room. Seattle did the same thing by answering, but put themselves behind the 8 ball, early on in that first half and just tried to find themselves out of that hole in the second half by really competing. Geno Smith really putting on a clinic in the passing game, but it just came down to just sloppy play, a touchdown call back from DK Metcalf, which would have gave him a little bit more time in that ball game to at least attempt for a comeback because it was down 5. Although they end up scoring still with a Lockett touchdown late in the fourth quarter behind the 2-minute warning. But just a lot of sloppy play, too many illegal procedures, false starts, holding penalties that really cost them yardage to help them put themselves in a better position to win that ball game. So I know when the Seattle Seahawks get back into the film room tomorrow, they're going to be kicking themselves in the butt because it was Seattle Seahawks beating the Seattle Seahawks. Especially in the first half, speaking back to the 49ers, blown coverages, missed tackles, that's a recipe for disaster, and that's what it was in the first half, and they did a better job coming out in the second half playing with a lot more juice, a lot more energy, attention to details, and you can just tell that those guys got the message from their head coach. So it's a tough loss for the Seattle Seahawks. We know those guys are going to continue to battle throughout the season. The 49ers did not take their foot off the gas pedal. And this is what we will like to see from the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. And we know they have been having a history of slow starts and getting it going right when they need it. And it seems to be that the 49ers are getting it going at the right time again this year. So, Pony, those are my thoughts. That's the games. Let's get to the rest of them.
All right, because I'm in Vegas for the Steelers and Raiders, I want to tip my cap to Pat for the breakdown of the 49ers and Seahawks. The magic of technology now allows for me to jump back into this conversation. We want you to listen and subscribe. That's how this thing works. That's how this remains free. That's how you get the content we put out, which is every game, every week. And so let's start, Pat, with the game on Monday. And the fact that we have a head coach fired in the NFL. Robert Saleh is out, and the Jets are playing for first place. And they're going to do it with a new head coach. Saleh shown the door. Apparently, he needed to win the game in London to keep his job. That's what all the reporting is on this. Aaron Rodgers came out and said on Pat McAfee's show he had nothing to do with this decision, and he resents the fact that people are blaming him for what happened here. In your opinion, you've seen a lot in the NFL. What is your take on what the Jets are doing here, Pat?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit immature to fire Robert Saleh this early in the season. I know, obviously, he had his struggles leading up until this season, but you still had a lot of trial and tribulations to get through. And not only that, you only one game out of first place in a wide open division. Your defense is playing solid. You just had to find a way to get the offense out of neutral, like we've been talking about all year. Um, and I believe A-Rod did not have anything to do with it because I've been a part of coach firings throughout my career, and it's very sudden that you hear players have input. Then again, I never played with a quarterback that have the credibility or the pull that Aaron Rodgers has. So I do believe Aaron Rodgers did not have anything to do with it. I don't know what the conversation of
So
him
you
and
mean
the
like
owner.
directly? You don't think Aaron Rodgers went to
No.
Woody Johnson, the owner, and said,
No.
"This town ain't big enough for the two of us. You need to fire this guy who people have seen me have awkward exchanges with, both in press conferences and on the
Right.
field." Okay.
Right. I don't think that happened. I don't know what the conversation was like, between him and Mr. Woody Johnson, but that remains to be between those guys. But I don't think Aaron had anything to do to say, "Oh, get him out of here." Because if he did, I believe if he did, Nathaniel Hackett, the intern head coach. But Brian, my cousin, gave a great analogy on Nick Nathaniel don't want the intern job because he's going to try to get the job next year if the team don't do as good as they want to do with him at the intern. He won't have a shot at it next year. That was his
Oh, so
two
Brian,
cents
so that's
about.
BMAC. That's Bryant McFadden's take on it, the ex-Steeler.
Yeah,
That's what he said. That's
yeah,
interesting.
that is very interesting. But I don't see it happening that way. I think if that was the case, because the defense is a strong point of that team, and the New York Jets is known for hiring defensive head coaches. Why not go left field and hire somebody that has a little bit more offense input as a head coach?
So if Aaron Rodgers did not pull rank here and say, "I'm the most important person in this organization," fire Robert Saleh, because that's the only way this is going to work. So I'm going to say, Pat, that you as a player have a better read on this maybe than a bunch of fans. I don't think that rules out the possibility that the owner views the Rodgers Saleh dynamic as untenable and decided because of that to get rid of Robert Saleh. So it still comes down to Aaron Rodgers, but
Right.
it's not Aaron Rodgers, telling his secretary, "I don't care who's in that office right now. I'm going in with the owner and I'm telling him it's him or me."
Right.
So I do think this comes back to Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of people who are around the Jets who think that Saleh was ready to strip, Saleh was ready to strip Hackett of play calling and was going to give it to Todd Downing, who has a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. He was in Tennessee a couple of years ago, Green Bay. And I've heard that Aaron Rodgers basically had a handshake deal with the owner that as long as he was the quarterback, Hackett was going to be the offensive coordinator and was going to call plays. Pat, I don't know why he has such a obsession with Nathaniel Hackett.
When he never officially called plays.
I don't get that, Pat. It's so bizarre to me why he is obsessed with this guy and why he wants to hitch his wagon to him at the very end of his career. I'll tell you a little bit what it reminds me of. Ben Roethlisberger got put in the shotgun marriage with Matt Canada at the end of his career here in Pittsburgh. And I know it bothered Ben. He said, "You want me to learn Mandarin, a new language, when I'm 38 years old?" Okay. An old dog don't want to learn new tricks.
Right.
And I think the same thing is true here where Rodgers wants an offense he's comfortable in. He didn't want to have to learn something entirely new. He wanted to do it his way, which in today's NFL probably isn't best. So I do think this is the Jets kowtowing to one guy. It's never been done. A coach has never been fired this early in the season, and the team has gone on to make the playoffs. But I do think they can buck the trend. I do think because of the division, as you pointed out, they can still win, I think, 10 games and make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this that most smart fans get, this is all optics because the issue there is the offense, not the defense.
Right.
And firing Robert Saleh doesn't fix that, Pat.
Exactly.
They didn't improve their offense with this move whatsoever. It's the same thing.
Exactly. They didn't improve. They did not improve anything.
The one thing people have brought up as a crazy idea, and I wonder how you respond to this. Now, I don't think he would have ever done it because he just hates the Jets with a passion. Like he honestly will do things to screw over the Jets every chance he gets because they blew the whistle on Spygate and everything else. But do you think it would have been possible for Belichick to take over midseason and have success there?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say no.
No.
I think it'll be too late for Bill to come in there and really put his hand, Coach Bill Belichick to come in there to put his fingers on what he on the blueprint or the plan or how he wanted his team to be ran. I think that'll be too short a notice. I mean, I believe they will improve, situationally because he's one of the best situational coaches that's ever coached the game of football.
Yeah.
But far as being able to really put his scheme in there, really understanding the guys, I think it'll be a little bit too late.
I agree with that. I don't know how you install when you're game planning every week. I don't know how you would have, changed the terminology. You would have basically had to use the playbooks that were there.
Right.
And I don't see Bill doing that. So I thought that was a half-baked idea. But I mean, we saw Jeff Saturday leave ESPN to coach a team mid-season a couple of years ago. It didn't work, but I mean, it happened.
It did.
So, and you guys beat them, and that was he did not bathe himself in glory coaching that night when the Steelers played the Colts that Monday night. I remember that game from a couple of years ago. You were still in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Commanders and Ravens. This is the best matchup of the week. Nobody would have said in August when we get to week 6, this matchup of these two teams that are so close to each other in the Beltway is going to be the best game of this week 6 Sunday. My question for you is, can Jaden Daniels keep it going against Baltimore?
It's going to be a tough task, but I believe he can because he have the weapons that can get open. He have the escapability to get away from the pressure that Baltimore loves to that Baltimore loves to send at the quarterback, and he just have the confidence and the poise that we've seen so far. That I have the confidence that he will be able to keep it going in this Baltimore game. I believe Baltimore will win this game. It's going to be a firework game, a high-scoring game, in my opinion. But I do believe Jaden can keep this going, just seeing what he's been able to do thus far throughout the season.
I'm going to say this now because I want to dull the pain for Commanders fans who listen to the podcast if they get blown out here. Because Lamar Jackson just kills NFC teams.
That he does.
He absolutely owns them. I really do think that the teams that see him so infrequently struggle against him because a quarterback who's that mobile is so hard to find. Now, Washington got to see it in training camp, and they practice against it every week with Daniels. So I think that could help them defensively in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw Josh Allen struggle there. We saw Jared Goff struggle there last year. So we saw what Brock Purdy looked like against Baltimore's defense. I know the coordinator was different and the personnel is not the same, but it's just a very, very, very tricky spot. That's why they're a touchdown underdog. Pat, I think they will get humbled in this game. I think it is kind of a welcome to the NFL. This is a reminder that things aren't that easy. If they win on Sunday, get ready for full-fledged. They can compete for a Super Bowl. Daniels is the MVP. This team has come out of nowhere. I mean, they've scored a lot of points and they've blown people out, but this is by far their biggest test of the season. And I don't think it's going to be like a mark against Daniels if they lose this game and it isn't close. The pressure's on Baltimore. It's a house money game for Washington, even though it's a rivalry. I don't expect him to. I got him in like all my fantasy leagues, which was great by me. So smart. But I don't expect them to play a great game on Sunday with him. If he does, I'm going to tip my cap to this guy and say he's on pace to be one of the greatest rookie quarterbacks of all time.
We'll see. Only time will tell, Pony. I think he's going to continue the success that he's been having thus far throughout the season.
Are you calling a Commanders win? You got the LSU shirt on right now. Are you going to go that far?
No, I did not say the Commanders were going to win the game. I think Baltimore is going to win the game by 4. That's my prediction. I'm going, let's say 38. We'll say 38-34. That's my
dude. If he's that's still a monster game for the guy.
It is.
If they score 34 points.
I think they have their offense have the ability to do it just because how many the dynamic of their offense. They can hit you in intermediate routes. They can hit you out of with backs out of the backfield. They can hit you with deep shots. They're just, I won't say they're unpredictable, but they're an offense that can hit you in so many different areas on the football field. Lions, Cowboys, both teams have won 2 games in a row. Are you ready to trust the Cowboys just yet?
I'm right there. I'm that close. I'm holding up my fingers here on our video page. This for them is their fine. They can say we flushed down the toilet, the Saints game, the Ravens game. We're back in Dallas where we have not won all year. Here comes an NFC contender. We slept on New Orleans. We didn't take them seriously. They caught us with our pants down. I just talked about the Ravens against NFC teams. This is a chance for the Cowboys to put themselves back in to the national conversation, and I give them a shot to do it. I do. I don't think they're a very good team, but I also think, Pat, they've gone now 5 weeks without playing a good game. I think they're due for one. I think just the percentages say at home, where last year they averaged almost 40 points a game. I think they're due for a big offensive performance at home. I got to give a shout out to Jalen Tolbert, the wide receiver who caught that touchdown pass to beat the Steelers, Pat. Sprained with a P. Sprained testicle. The play before. Comes back with a sprained testicle and catches that touchdown pass. I don't know if he has kids. If he does, I don't know if he'll have any more. I'm hoping he has a couple. So shout out to him for that big play to beat the Steelers. And maybe that'll be their good luck charm here moving into the game against Detroit. I'm starting to take the Cowboys more seriously, Pat.
We'll see.
You called them soft. They didn't look soft last week. You got to give them props for that.
Yeah. And I'm really good at that. Taking my words back that I won't necessarily say I didn't mean, but if those guys came out and, proved me wrong, which they did last week, they came out on a whole new intensity, whole new level of focus and attention to details. You can just tell those guys was hearing the noise about, how they was getting pushed around by a couple teams, and they played like it, so this is a measuring stick game for the Cowboys because, like you said, they're now competing against an NFC opponent who is considered a top-tier team in the NFC. You back home, you have an opportunity to get those games that you lost early at home flushed away, like you said, kind of, put those sweep those under the rug, and now you have another A-list quality opponent coming back into your building.
And remember that
Here,
game last year? They got screwed because they caught the offensive tackle, caught the
right. He didn't
converted
report.
there.
Yeah, he
Right.
didn't report.
That's what they said. So this is try to be a payback game for Detroit in this situation here, Pat.
I just think anytime the Cowboys have a big game and you're just ready to give in, just give in with them, they just let you down. So that's why I say I'm not there just yet.
Uh-huh.
But this is a huge measuring
Well,
stick game for them.
I just think this is the type because we're in October, not January.
Mhm.
So I do think these are the types of games they win to tease people. I think these are the types of games they win that have people saying, "Oh, here they come. Look out for Dallas. They might win the division now. They might have a shot." San Francisco's having a down year. They beat Detroit. And then they break your heart when we get closer to Christmas time, when we've got, cookies and milk out for Santa Claus. That's really when they let you down.
Right.
So I'm going to make a bold statement here. I'm picking them to win this game, and I'm going to go a step further, Pat. I'm going to pick them to win this game by double digits.
Wow. Double digit. And the spread is what?
I think 3. Spencer can look that up for us.
It is. Detroit is laying 3.
Jags and Bears in London. So I wanted to take more of a global viewpoint of this game because every rookie quarterback has a winning record right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels in first place. The Broncos have won 3 in a row. The Bears, every team in the NFC North is over 500. Pat, how is it possible that when there's such a steep learning curve from college to the NFL, that all of these quarterbacks are on teams that are winning more than they're losing right now in 2024? What's your theory?
I think what it is that these organizations and these head coaches are hiring offensive coordinators that have creativity for these kids that's coming out of college. When you think of it, most college quarterbacks are in a run and gun type offense. None of them are in a, I formation or pro style offense. Most of these guys are in the gun, so I think the beauty of these, 3 quarterbacks, and besides Bo Nix, he's not but he's an offensive guru, a great play caller, and Sean Payton, I'm speaking of. But the beauty of these 3 quarterbacks, that they are in some really, really good situations with their play caller. It's not like they have to go in and learn something completely new or something that they're not comfortable with. At least 50 to 60% of the, playbook is what those guys have ran before in college, or a form of it, So I believe the offensive coordinators that are being hired now is a little bit more relatable to the quarterbacks that are being drafted.
Well, I think the interesting part of that is Sean Payton has like an old soul.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is more of an old school from the Parcells coaching tree.
Right.
But I actually think he found the quarterback in this draft, which is probably why he liked Nix, who I think responds to that coaching.
Right.
I'm not saying it wouldn't work necessarily, but I don't think that Caleb Williams and Sean Payton would mesh with each other.
Yeah.
I think that there'd be a person, you know what I'm saying? I think there'd be a personality conflict there. I really do.
I can see that.
So Kingsbury, college background, Jaden Daniels played in a wide open offense. I think their styles fit. I'm still less sure of the Chicago thing, but their defense is good, and their offensive line, since it got really crucified for the first 2 or 3 games of the season, they're able to run the ball now. DeAndre Swift has had some big games, and we've seen Caleb Williams look much better as a result of it. So Washington hired a good coach. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. Chicago won a lot of games last year. These are good situations for young quarterbacks to be in.
Yeah, very good situations. Bengals, Giants. Daniel Jones is owed $30 million. Would you keep him around for that price in 2025?
Before I answer that question, I'm not going to shout out this company because I don't want to give people free pops on this podcast, Pat. But I'm drinking a raspberry iced tea vodka right now. It's honestly one of the best canned drinks I've ever had in my entire life. These are dangerous. Yes. Okay. I'm only having one, but in a previous life, I could see myself drinking about 15 of these. So I don't know
Uh-oh.
why, but I just had a sip and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. All right. So this is going to blow your mind, I think. So my mom is a diehard Giants fan. She lives back in New York. She lives and dies with their games. When they win, it makes her day. When they lose, it breaks her heart, even though I think a lot of Giants fans are rooting for them to lose because they want to be able to draft a quarterback in next year's draft. Like being mediocre, just I don't think most Giants fans feel like that's not a winning proposition long term.
Right.
But $30 million, we had Spencer go through it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, a few episodes ago. We rattled off like 15 dudes that are making way more money than that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at $30 million, I would just boil the question down to this. Is Daniel Jones an average quarterback in the NFL? Because that's what $30 million gets you these days. And my answer right now is yes. Yes, like obviously with Jones, he can't be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, etc. He can't carry your team. But Pat, they're not paying him to do that.
Exactly.
When you've got quarterbacks making $25 million more than that, or $20 million, or 10 or 15 even, like all of a sudden that deal does not look like the kind of albatross that weighs the team down. With the salary cap going way up, you can build around an average quarterback making that kind of money. Right. So my answer is actually yes. He's played really good the last 3 games. If this is more of an indication of who Daniel Jones is going to be for this year, the only reason why the Giants won't bring him back is because they've already made up their minds on him. But this Daniel Jones right now deserves to make that kind of money. Sorry, I know Giants fans might want to hear that, but I honestly think he does.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe he's one of those quarterbacks that's not great, but he's not a bad quarterback. So he's like right there in the cuffs, in between those 2 tiers. And for the most part, like you said, the salary cap is going up next year. You have an opportunity to build around him, give him some weapons on the offensive side of the ball, like get him a receiver or two. You have opportunity to go out there and get you a solid running back in the free agent market. Beef up your offensive line. That's give him an opportunity to stand in the pocket and stand clean because he have the mannerism. He has a very strong arm. He just needs the time to deliver the ball to some top quality receivers. And now I know they have
Neighbors.
my neighbors from LSU, but now get you a tight end in there that's able to open up the middle of the field.
Well, they had one, but then he had an ugly separation from a women's basketball player and started writing songs about it, which was very bizarre. Yeah. Pat, I want to know from an NFL player's perspective, if we went around and asked NFL players, if you are hungry for a Super Bowl, what team gives you the best chance to win? A team that has a great quarterback and maybe the rest of the roster is not very good, or a team that has an average quarterback, but they've surrounded him with really good players? How do you think most NFL players would answer that question?
And what was the first scenario?
First scenario is you got a great quarterback, but the team around him is incomplete and there's holes. The other team has an average quarterback, but it's a very good team around him.
I go with the first one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think with a good quarterback with pieces around him, but because I feel like just like a Tom Brady, like best quarterback to ever play the game, like he never had he had an all-star roster one year and they ended up losing the Super Bowl. But for the most part, they never really had an all-star roster. They had like homegrown guys, just like the Kansas City Chiefs. Most of those guys are homegrown guys they drafted, and they got a all-star quarterback.
Yeah, it's not a who's who of all-star team. The tight end's dating the most famous woman in the world, but outside of that, it's not like they're all pros and all stars who everybody knows about. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think the first one would be more suitable, in my opinion. So,
Steelers and
sorry.
Raiders. I'm up next.
Okay.
The Devante Adams saga drags on. He claims he has a hamstring injury. He's not playing. His buddy Aaron Rodgers just had the he didn't necessarily, but the coach got fired there. His other buddy Derek Carr now has an oblique injury and isn't going to play for a few weeks. So Devante Adams is in limbo right now, Pat. If you could offer him some advice on this podcast, what would you tell him to do?
My hamstring hurt the rest of the year. I mean, because I just feel like there's not a situation for him that he feel that he's comfortable with. I feel like if he's going to do a trade or want to be traded, I feel like next year would be the best option for him. Really have an opportunity to let every team get healthy. Dissect. What is really good for you. What you're looking for out of the last. Hopefully the last stop in your career. And just really weigh those options. I just feel like now just too many teams up in limbo. The teams that we thought that would have a real run at him. There's just too many question marks for him to really chase what he's wanting to chase in his career right now.
Man, I just feel like though if he sits out the rest of the year, teams are going to be spooked by that and concerned about him if he collects dust for that long.
Yeah, I mean, he don't have a quarterback throwing him the ball right now. So
no, they're going to start Aiden O'Connell in this game,
right?
Pat.
So what do we have to play for?
I guess just the stats, right? Just the numbers, just his own individual production.
I mean, yeah, I can see that, but my hamstring hurts the rest of the year.
The one thing I'll ask about that is this guy has a legacy. I mean, we've called him a Hall of Famer on this podcast. I don't think that
which he is.
Yeah, I mean that's not even really up for debate. But do you think when your career's over, I think a lot of guys look at the numbers, right? I mean, he's missing out on catches and yards and touchdowns if he doesn't play for 2 more months.
Yeah. But he'll be traded though. He'll be traded. I don't think he will. If it was, I don't think he'll sit out the rest of the year. But I do think he'll be traded. But if he was not to be traded, that would be my answer to them, man. Yeah,
I can't let this game go without talking about the Steelers for a second because they've been linked to Adams. I don't think it's going to happen because of what I'm about to ask you about and bring up. George Pickens, we've got another Steelers wide receiver that's unhappy. So I would not want to trade for a wide receiver who's unhappy in his current situation and say, come here and the grass is going to be greener when we're going to be a run-first offense and our quarterback situation isn't exactly perfect and set up for the future. I could see Adams getting frustrated here by those things. Now, he's not going to react to those things the way that George has. He's going to be way more professional about it because that's just who Adams is. This Pickens thing here, Pat, has blown up. The guy, the video from the second half of the game is embarrassing where he's jogging. He's not even trying on some of these plays. He gets benched in the game for a series. Tomlin had to come out and run interference Tuesday and say, it's load management, like we're talking about NBA players in an 82-game season, which I've never heard before. And most people called BS on it. But, I mean, last year he did this too. He erased the Steelers on all his social media. There were issues like the Colts game where he didn't block for Jalen Warren and didn't try after an interception. So, I mean, you've been around this guy. Like, how do you get his head screwed back on straight? Because, Pat, I've been here for years. We had Martavis Bryant. We had Antonio Brown. We had Chase Claypool. We had Deontay Johnson. All wonderfully talented guys. In AB's case, a Hall of Famer. But they just blow up here for some reason. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, George just have to get out of his own way, man. I mean,
now his dad's on Twitter calling coaches out and stuff. We're doing that whole thing.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, this generation nowadays are different, and there's only so much you can say, So, but I have been around George, man. A great guy, great teammate, It's just, he's a competitor. Once he gets in between those white lines, like every receiver, they believe they always open. You know what I mean? Just give him an
Yeah.
opportunity. And George is one of those
But
guys.
Pat, the thing I don't understand about the competitor thing is if you want to compete, why do you start taking plays off? That's the opposite of competing, man. When you stop running.
But then that just goes into, yeah, I'm a competitor, but at the same time, I'm not getting the football, or I'm not about to put, all my effort into something when I'm not really involved in the game. That's just my,
Yeah.
you know, thought process of it. So um that's not taken away from his competitive edge. That's, like I said earlier, George have to get out of his own way, put all of that stuff aside and, be one of those willing teammates to do all the little things to help you to
What can
to,
the
to
coaches
create
do to
winning
get him to
football.
act that way?
I have no idea. I have
At
no
least you're
idea.
honest, dude. At
And
least you're not. Yeah, I mean that's really the conundrum here for a lot of people.
hell, honestly, if Coach T can't get through him, whew.
Yeah, good luck to the next guy is basically what you're saying.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
Cardinals and Packers. I think this is a sneaky good game
Hmm.
between these two teams. Arizona coming off a big win against the 49ers, and Green Bay went to LA and won. So I'm going to ask you this question. Which team do you think has a better chance of winning its division?
Ah, the Cardinals. Because I
Okay.
think I think the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions are better than the Green Bay Packers. Those games are going to be competitive because those are divisional games. But just on paper, I believe those teams are better. And with the Cardinals, man, they are a strappy team. Long as Kyler Murray can stay healthy and continue to deliver plays for his football team down the stretch, especially in November, December, I believe they can pull it off. Getting two huge early divisional wins against teams who had their number for a while now. Against the teams I'm talking about is the Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. So
Yep.
they're 2-0 in their division right now, playing some very, very quality, strappy football on defense. And Kyler Murray, playing some of the best football that I've seen him play in his NFL career. If he can keep that up, I got my faith in the Cardinals over the Green Bay Packers to win their division.
So that is the right answer according to the odds makers. The Cardinals are plus 420 to win their division. That means 4-1. And the Packers are plus 650, almost 7-1. Both are third in their division. Lions and the Vikings ahead of the Packers, 49ers and Seahawks ahead of the Cardinals. You know, I liked Arizona as a sleeper before the season started, and I still do. I mean, and I should like them even more because of the 49ers and just the way that their first 6 games have gone here. But I just feel like it's a roller coaster with Murray, man.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many ups and downs, and I know it's asking a lot for a quarterback to just be, steady Eddie in the same thing every week. But before I answer that, like I've got more faith, I think, in Love and the coaches in Green Bay, and I think their defense is getting better and starting to figure it out. So I'll answer them, even though I think that the path to win it is easier for the Cardinals. I mean, I think
Right.
that getting to the top, that division is not as deep as the NFC North, but like, I don't know. Like, I've got to see Kyler do more than just a 1 or 2 game stretch or glimpse of him being great. So I'll
That's
go
why I
with
said
Green Bay.
November, December. Texan Patriots. Do you think it's time for Drake May to be in the starting lineup?
No, I think this is a knee jerk reaction. And when I say knee jerk reaction, I mean that what's happened here is all of these rookie quarterbacks are having various levels of success. Jaden Daniels being the best. We touched on even Bo Nix having a winning record. And I think the Kraft family is watching Miami with Tyler Huntley beat them 15-10, watching their own fans boo the offense, watching their own fans chant, "We want Drake," at the games, and they're giving in to outside pressure here. You had a plan. It was to play Jacoby Brissett this year, to let May learn, to let him watch, to allow for the game to slow down, to not put him in there with a bad offensive line. And really, other than Ramondre Stevenson, they're not weapons. Okay. It's like taking a squirt gun to a battle with bazookas. I mean, they just do not have those types of playmakers. So, I mean, if May does it this year, then he's really the guy. I mean, if he can find a way to get it done with these dudes, then they really hit a home run with this draft pick. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a better chance, Pat, he struggles, and it might screw him up for years. So, no, I think this is a terrible decision by the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should have stuck with your plan. You knew what your team was looking like, coming into the season. Every team have an idea of how competitive their team is going to be. And I'm quite sure the Patriots knew that they was going to be a semi-competitive football team. And like you said, they came in with the plan with Brissett being their starting quarterback. Just stick with it, because now you're putting your young quarterback in a position to really have his career damaged. Who wants to go out there and get banged up, every single time every single time they drop back for a pass? Like, that's not a great confidence builder. So I think you give it the rest of the season, give yourself an off season to give yourself an opportunity to rebuild your offensive line, start there, gain some weapons, put some weapons around the young fella to see if he can flourish with that.
I'm going to say that, in my opinion, what they're doing here with Drake May is actually worse than what the Jets did in firing Robert Saleh. I think long-term, big picture, this move is going to be more damaging for the organization than what the Jets did. Browns and Eagles. Speaking of Saleh, now that he's putting a for sale sign in front of his very large New Jersey home, we've got two coaches on the hot seat in this matchup: Kevin Stefanski, Nick Sirianni. Who is closer to the unemployment line in your situation, in your opinion, Pat? Browns coach, Eagles coach?
I go Browns coach. I go Eagles coach.
That's a close call for you.
It is a close call, but I'm gonna go with the Eagles coach, just because the pedigree that the Eagles organization carry, and if they don't get it done this year, I think they're calling the quits. I feel like with Stefanski, he pretty much gave that organization new life. So I think he has a little bit of a longer leash, in my opinion. I can't be wrong, but that's my take on it.
He probably does, because he did win 2 Coach of the Years, and he has taken them to the playoffs a couple times, and he won a playoff game. But I think that their owner is so impulsive, impetuous, that I could see him saying, no, I gave Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed. He's not playing well. I'm blaming you for that. It's your fault, not mine. Not me for giving the money, you for not being able to unlock that. Goodbye. See you later. So I'm going to say Stefanski, just because the Browns fire coaches like, this is going to sound bad, but like, if I stain a Jordan, I don't want to wear them anymore. Mm-hmm. They go in the closet. I'm buying new ones. That's the way the Browns owner looks at head coaches. Right. If there's even a slight imperfection, you're gone. But I will say, I really believe this, Pat. I think if the Eagles lose this game, Sirianni's fired. I don't think they will. They're a 9-point favorite. But if they lost at home to the Browns, I think it would be bad enough. Now that the first domino has fallen with Saleh, I don't put it past another owner to say, all right, we got to do the same thing. Get busy living or get busy dying. Sayonara. Yeah. Who's next?
Yeah. And you kind of feel that too there in Philadelphia, that he's kind of like on his last string, out there with the fans and with the owner and the quarterback relationship. Kind of almost the same thing what Robert Saleh was going through.
Yeah, you're right. There's friction there.
Right there in New York. So that's why I had to change my answer at first. All right, we got the Chargers, Broncos. If the playoffs started today, the Broncos will be in. Is that enough to get Coach Sean Payton Coach of the Year?
Everybody should answer this question, no. But if you want to disagree with me on this, Pat, that's your prerogative.
I agree with you.
So the answer is no, but he's climbed the ladder to the point where you've got Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings at 5-0. They'll never give it to Andy Reid, even though on the preview edition of this podcast before you started, I said, look out for Andy Reid for Coach of the Year. Danny said it was one of the worst opinions he'd ever heard on this podcast. So I am rooting for Andy Reid to win this award so badly so I can now dunk on him after the fact. But come on, man. I mean, I think the Vegas expectation was 5.5 wins. They're already at 3. This defense last year gave up 70 points in a game. Yeah. Now it's one of the best in the NFL. Sean Payton's whole MO is that he's an offensive coach. Part of being a great head coach is finding the right people to work under you. So he's done a phenomenal job with that. Yeah, like I have to give, he rubs people the wrong way. Sean Payton, his personality is not for everyone, but you are being a big time hater if you don't give this guy his props. And right now I would say he's probably doing the second or third best coaching job in the entire NFL, Pat. But yeah. Dan Quinn up there too. I'd go O'Connell, Quinn in Washington, and then I'd put Sean Payton third.
That's a solid top 3. I like your top 3. And he have done a great job with his team as far as the turnaround from last year to this year. He went out in the draft, got some key pieces in the draft, got the quarterback that he wanted, which a lot of people thought was a little bit crazy. Thought he wouldn't fit in the scheme that Sean Payton wants to run. Boy, have they both proved all the naysayers wrong on that aspect. But the defense is playing solid. With Vance Joseph always having a very aggressive mindset. Going into game plans, and now that those guys have the corners playing solid, because playing really sticky coverage. Because to me, that's what really makes that defense flourish, when you can have guys that can cover up those receivers in man-to-man defense.
My friend Kay Adams said she believes Surtain is playing the best corner in the NFL since Darrelle Revis. And I wanted to text her and say, Kay, I work with a guy named Patrick Peterson. Did you forget he existed? Did you have amnesia? Did you have temporary memory loss? Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Surtain, but like, not just you. We've had did Richard Seymour not exist? I mean, there's like 3 or 4 other Richard Sherman. I'm sorry, Richard Seymour. He played for the Raiders and Patriots. Thank you. I think the guy's a great player, but I wouldn't say that he's like redefining the position right now. Would you?
No, I wouldn't say he's redefining the position at all. But he is playing some really, really, really good football. Derek Stingley is as well. And, him and Derek Stingley and Pat Surtain are the 2 corners I like to watch right now. Just how technical sound they are at the line of scrimmage, because they do some of the things that I used to like to do when I played, in the league, which was line up at the line of scrimmage and play bump and run.
Yeah, that's the way I like my corners playing too. I watched Dick LeBeau in the Steelers defense. God bless the guy, but he'd have like Taylor 15 yards away from the corner. I'm like, what are we doing here? Okay, that would just drive me nuts, especially on 3rd and short.
Right.
Bucks and Saints. Now, this is a serious one. We know what's going on with the hurricane there. Our listeners down in Florida, even people that don't live there who are affected by this, our hearts go out to them. It is such a scary situation. By the time people listen to this podcast, we'll have probably even more information about what's happened there. What is the NFL going to do with the Bucks here, Pat? Because if this thing hits the Gulf Coast of Florida the way people are talking about, we might have a situation like the Saints the year that Katrina affected New Orleans. I know that sounds, I'm not saying that to sound hyperbolic. I'm legitimately concerned that the well-being of the residents there is going to take precedence over a football season, as it should. And that's going to potentially completely change the way an NFL team goes about its business for possibly a very long period of time, Pat.
Yeah, it's going to be a sticky situation, but the NFL, they had the opportunity to not trial run this, but have a situation close to this when New Orleans went through this in 2004. Um, so they'll do the best that they can as far as relocating the team and getting games played if that's possible. I don't know. I'm sure they would get the games played.
Yeah.
Relocating the team to San Diego or something like that. Who knows? But I'm sure they're putting together a game plan to move as swiftly as possible if there was a plan that needed to be executed.
Colts, Titans, Falcons, Panthers to wrap it up. Anything on these games, Pat?
Last week I was like, didn't nobody care about that Miami and New England game? But this game, both of these games are divisional games. So it's a lot on the line, a lot at stake. I think both quarterbacks in the Colts and the Colts and Tennessee games, they're going to go with both veteran quarterbacks. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't heard anything.
Well, I'm hearing Levis is going to start that Tennessee game, Pat, which I think is a mistake. I'd rather see Mason.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't heard anything back on that. So, all right, well, you got Mason. I'm not Mason.
Will Levis.
Will Levis starting in that game. But
which I would say why. I would just ask out loud why. What else do we need to see from Will Levis?
Yeah, I think we've seen enough, and the offense looked a little bit more fluent with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. But then you got Atlanta and the Panthers. The most intriguing game out of those two will be the Colts, just because I'm rooting for Joe Flacco.
You are?
I'm rooting for Joe Flacco. Yeah, I like veteran players, man. So I'm rooting for Joe Flacco. That game is probably the most interesting out of the two. I expect the Falcons to go into the Panthers' house and put up a whole bunch of points. This is going to be the game. Although they are on a winning streak right now.
Yep.
But I believe this is the game where the offense really began to flourish and play a real 3-phase complete football game.
Well,
this week.
I don't want people to think that I'm like a booze hound or anything, because I've already made one reference to drinking on this podcast. But I'm going to make a prediction here, and I'm going to back it up. I'm going to send you a very expensive bottle of either wine or maybe like a brown liquor, if that's what you're into. Because I'm going to say
tequila.
Okay. I like tequila too. More of a Blanco guy or more of a Reposado?
More of a Repo, but I like a good Blanco as well.
Okay.
No additives.
All right. So, right, exactly. You got a clean living here.
Oh, yeah.
I think Carolina's going to beat them.
Whoa.
I think that Atlanta has they've been living dangerously here, right to the edge these last two games with the coup field goal against New Orleans, and then coming all the way back to beat the Bucs in that dramatic Thursday night game. I think extra time off. Oh my God, they're feeling themselves now. Carolina stinks. The Andy Dalton honeymoon is over there. This team is back to being one of the worst teams in the NFL. And I think they're going to get shocked here. I think they're going to get a rude awakening. I see this happen in the NFL all the time. And I'm going to call for a Chuba Hubbard 200-yard game against the Falcons. And Carolina is going to be victorious. And so if I'm wrong about this, Pat, well, then you are going to benefit greatly. I'm going to throw that out there.
I'm putting that down, writing this down right now.
Spence is making money for you. Okay, Spence.
Exactly.
We'll see about that. Maybe I could send some gummies your way if Carolina loses this game. Hey, Pat, thanks for doing this again. Thanks for breaking down week 6 with us. Again, listen and subscribe, First and Pod. It's on the Odyssey app. It's on YouTube, but there are so many different ways. Wherever you get good podcasts, that's where you can find our show, First and Pod. We'll be back Sunday night after the Bengals and Giants, breaking it all down. Thanks for listening.